Right then folks, here we are at an absolutely freezing but beautiful Cudmore Fisheries on the Arena Lake, where I'm going to be going and giving you some little tips about my 3 bestest ever winter bomb hook baits. Obviously it's flipping desperate folks, it's going to be, I don't even know if I'm going to catch a fish today, but who cares if we catch a fish or not, we're out anyway. And obviously bait wise, there's 3 for me in particular: bread, corn and good old magpies. Now what you've got to consider on waters like this, certainly in the depths of winter, now bearing in mind there was snow like nearly a foot deep just a few days ago in here folks. That's how cold it's been. That's all melted into the lake. The water levels risen by, I want to say, sort of like 8 or 9 inches. Visibility, you can see sort of like 2 foot down as well. It's proper cold and desperate, but you know, there'll be some days where you can still go out and catch some carp. And for me, winter carping, you've got to be proper patient, but when that tip goes round, there's something special about it folks. They're really good. When they're showing the true winter colours, it's proper nice, but you've got to be patient. So there's a few like tips that I want to show you about the bait and obviously the hook baits. First one we're going to do is talk about bread. Now bread's probably the most popular winter hook bait. Do you know what used to do my head in about bread folks is the fact that every time you went to wind in, your bread wouldn't be on. It proper used to bother me. Now yeah, obviously there's little things you can do. You can put like a pop-up on, chop that in half, put that on like a white pop-up, and then put your dish of bread and so you've always got something fishing. But the more you get used to something, you know for a fact that when you chuck that bread in, it's staying on. Now obviously you've only got to do the experiments in a little tub or what have you. You watch what happens with that bread. Obviously it expands out, and as soon as you go to like even flick it, it can potentially fall off. So you know, you imagine that force coming through like the depths of the water. When you're winding in, your bread's going to fall off. So don't be discouraged if your bread isn't on. It probably used to do my head in, but that's out of my head now, and it's a proper bait to start off on. So that's what we're going to talk through. Now I've got 3 different hook lengths here. I'm going to talk you through. So first things first is line that you're fishing. Now for carp, it's pretty much like I'd use in the summer. I still use 0.20 hook lengths. All my hook lengths are on 12 inches, and I do like to have like a 4-inch twizzle boom to one of them. Quick release, snap linky, swivelly. I'll show you what I mean in a minute folks, but hook length wise I'll just pretty much stay to 0.20 all the time, 12 inches. Now for bread and corn I use a size 12 hook, a size 12 MCMB hook, and then for maggots I use a size 14, just a little bit smaller, but I'll do something a little bit different with magpies, which I'll show you in a sec. So first things first, what I've got is a little stopper on first, a little quick stop, yeah? That's in a little babby loop, and I've just whipped round the hook. I tend to go sort of like 16 or 18 times. Now what I have done is whip round the shank of the hook so that basically I've always got that hair rig sort of pointing away from my hook, so it's nice and tight. Can put a little bit of silicone on. On my other hair rigs I've got a bit of silicone on, which I'll talk you through in a sec. So first things first, let's pop this bread container open. Ba-doing! That's the beauty of these folks. So you've got like 4 different punches. We've got 12mm, 10mm, 8mm and 6mm that we're using today, and I've already got that loaded. So I've gone into the bread 3 times and I've got 3 6mm discs in there. First thing we need though is one of these little babby spikers. Yeah, and what the spiker, that goes into the end of your quick stop, so it's like that. And then we get our bread, which we've already got punched in there. Jamie's going to zoom in on that. He's on it. Go on, Jamie! Yeah! Need a brew after this, folks. It's flipping freezing. Right, so I've got 3 discs in there. What I'm going to do is put this right in the middle of the bread, dunk, and then you've got like a plunge on this side as well. I'm going to plunge that down so the bread is released. And then push that up, that comes back on itself like that, and then basically your bread is sitting on top of your quick stop. So if Jamie zooms in again on that, you can see that there's 3 discs of bread on there. Now the reason, obviously I've got a little bit of a gap there, that's all to do with that bread. When that bread sort of like swells up in the water, that'll pretty much come down to like just the top of the hook. It's such a fantastic effective hook bait this time of year. Obviously this is going to sink, and in clear water the fish come along, obviously they see the bright white hook bait and you just take it. And obviously with it being so soft, they absolutely adore bread. All times of year, but certainly in the winter, it's probably the most effective carp bait, I'd say, bread. Certainly in the winter, but it's one of them for me, folks. I like to be aggressive in feeding, but we can't do that this time of year. So that'll be my first thing, what I do with the bread. Yeah, chuck that out and, you know, whatever, 10, 15 hour, 2 hour cast and what have you, you know what I mean? It's one of them. So that's my first one. My next one, there'll be some venues where popped up bread works really well. Certainly the deeper venues, like the deeper the water, you can imagine how cold it is down at the bottom, and obviously days like this, obviously it's flipping freezing, but that sun is actually quite nice. It's probably about 2 degrees. It's actually quite nice. Now, what's going to happen, that's going to create thermals in the water. Fish are going to find them warmer layers in the water, and obviously they'll sit off the bottom. So that's when we use popped up bread. Now, for popped up bread, you need some scissors. So what I'm going to do is just get a little bit of a crust here. So I'm just going to cut along there and then cut down. So I've got like roughly 1 centimetre thick, I'd say. Yes, I've got like just over 1 inch piece of bread there, and I'm going to get sort of 3 different hook baits off that, or 3 separate hook baits, should I say. So one there, put that there, and then one there. Obviously, you know, it's venue dependent. Now, if it's bigger fish, you go bigger size of bread, smaller fish, smaller size of bread. But around like 1 centimetre square, if you like. You getting that in, Jamie? He's cool. I don't need to check anymore, folks, do I? No, he's just on it, His head's like that all the time, constantly. Yeah, that's what we're looking for, little sort of centimetre squares. Now, the same again. Where's my blooming up length gone? Where's my up length gone? Oh, for goodness sake, I've lost my up length. Where's my up length? There's I put it in the tub so I wouldn't lose it. Bloody lost it, didn't I? Right, so we do exactly the same thing again. And again, this is another reason why I do like to have quite a long hair from the top of my hook. So I'll put that spiker in. And then you're going through the soft bit, the white bit at the bottom, again, right through the middle, right through the crust, pull that out, and that's what you're left with. Look at that, folks, it's so effective. Now, obviously, that will float, so you chuck that in, that's going to sit off the bottom. Now, bearing in mind, I've got 12-inch hook length on, I know that's popping up 12 inches, but what will happen, weight of the water, when the water grabs on it, that just sinks slow. And do you know what, folks, I'm going to say that is when you tend to get a lot of your bites, as that water like really soaks into that bread and starts to sink really, really slow. That's when the fish will attack it, because it's just falling like really natural. But don't get me wrong, you will get a real quick response on that as well. You know, if the fish are just lifting off the bottom, like I said before, if that water is a little bit warmer up in the warmer layers, that's where you're going to catch a fish on that. So that's bread done and dusted. That is probably my number one go-to winter bait. My next one is, I'm going to go through maggots next, and I'm going to probably save my favourite till last, so let's get that out, but just close that. Next one I'm going to cover is maggots. Now, I do like to fish maggots on a hair, folks, I won't lie, and I like to put sort of 2, 3, 4 maggots in a little hair. Now you'll see that is exactly the same, you know, where I tie a hook for like my summer fishing, my summer pellet fishing, or what have you. You know, band straight on the bend of the hook. Small hook on this one, remember me saying it's a 14 hook, but exactly the same, 0.20, 12 inches. Now what I'm going to do this time is, just going to get some maggots out. We've got some maggots, got some reds and whites. I'm just going to stun a few red maggots. Now again, it depends on the size of the fish. If you're after, you know, a few sort of F1s and what have you, then a single double maggot. But if it's carp, then 3 or 4 maggots. And what I like to do is just literally just band them, just exactly like you do in the summer. So just open that band up. There's 3 maggots there. Yeah, I'm just going to get them, just put them all in. It's such an effective way of fishing. So grab the band, pull them off, and then if they're a bit too close, what you can do is just push down them maggots and pull them through, and that's what you're left with. Such an effective hook bait, that, folks. I've been using hair rig maggots a lot for my winter fishing. Do you know what else I use it for? I know this is going to be like more bomb focus, what I'm going to fish today, whatever, just have a fish, but I love using it on the waggler as well. Hair rig maggots on the waggler, because what happens when you cast on a waggler and going to feather it, sometimes you can flick that maggot off. You know, if you're casting a little bit too hard, you can flick that maggot off. Whereas when it's hair rigged, you never flick it off, and going to say you do hook a lot more fish, so shh, don't be telling everyone about that. But herring magwise, certainly on the bomb, proper. And then last of all is probably my favourite way of winter bomb fishing, and that is to use bomb and corn, but in conjunction with pellets on a pellet cone. I absolutely adore it. Obviously just on its own, so you can see there, in fact, yeah, here's one where I've got that little bit of silicone on the top of the hook. I started experimenting with it a few years ago. I know it's been a method for years and years, and Jamie shouts at me all the time, you know, Andrew, you need to get on the silicone, you'll cut more fish, and it's how that hook turns round, and it does work really well. Obviously, that other hook, that bread hook, folks, that's probably one of my old hooks. Didn't have it on that, did I? But a bit of silicone there just to help that hook turn round. So look how I've hair rigged that corn. I always hair rig the corn. I tend to choose a big bit of corn, and I always hair rig it from the soft bit up to the hard bit at the top. I don't like putting sort of 2 or 3 bits of corn on and then going through the side so it's lying flat like that. Everyone's different, no, folks, you know what I mean? It's whatever works for you, and that's the beauty of fishing. But personally, I like to hair rig my corn like that. Now that on its own, folks, just a hair rig piece of corn is a fantastic winter bait. No feed whatsoever because of the colour, you know, bright yellow, proper stands out. It's amazing. But I like to put a bit of feed in, don't I, folks? And that's why, for me, pellet cone just like reigns supreme for me. So what I've done, when I got here, I prepared some 2mm Sonny Baits Fin Perfect pellets, yeah? Literally just put not even half a pint in there. You can see how well they're swelled up. Not even half a pint, soaked them in water just so they were peeping through the top of the water, and then just left them. They will take, I want to say, a good hour, at least an hour this time of year, folks, because the water's so cold. So I definitely recommend you do this either the night before or on the morning of your session. Make sure them pellets are right. After they'd absorbed all that water, what I did was just got a little handful, sort of like half an handful, put some of them pellets into another tub, and I put some Sonny Baits haze on, some washed out haze. Now, does this stuff make a difference? For me personally, my fishing, folks, I'm convinced it does. And that's what fishing's all about for me. It's all about confidence. If you've got confidence in something that's going to work, it's going to be up there and it's going to make you fish better. So getting the haze or colourings and that. And all I've done is I've just mixed that in a separate tub, put them on the pellets, and you get like the odd like little bit of fleck of colour. And I'm convinced that's going to attract fish. It can't not. And obviously you can, you know, put that on your bread, put that on magwise, whatever you want it to. Obviously putting it onto bread, it really just soak that colour up and the flavour. And you know, it's a confidence thing, folks. That's what we're on about. Now, pellet cones then, folks. Now what I've got here is, you remember like back in the day before we had like puller kits? You youngsters won't, all you blooming youngsters know, you've got it too good. All you know is blooming puller kits, puller watsits and then side pullers. That's all you know. But back in the day, you used to have these winder bungs that you used to store your elastic on, and that's all that is. I've just got a winder bung and just chopped it down, so I made 3 little cones. So I've got my slightly bigger one, medium one, and then a smaller one. Yeah, you could have bigger ones if you wanted to. You could have even smaller ones if you wanted to. There's pellet cones on the market. They've actually been designed for the case, but I find these just work just as well. So what we'll do, we'll go in with a bigger one. Now what I'm going to do, obviously you've got to make sure your pellets are right for this, and depending on if the fish are like feeding really confidently or not so confident, depends on how hard you squeeze it, and you know, you can really sort of like play around with the breakdown rate. Obviously the water's freezing cold today. Even if I squoze it really gently, it's still going to take a few seconds before them pellets eventually break down. But the most important thing for me is when you're casting, you need to make sure it's staying around your hook bait. So I do like to give them quite a bit of a squeeze. You see there, I'm giving it a squeeze, and you can see the pellets coming out either end. Yeah, so I've squeezed that hard enough. So it's basically like plugging a feeder. So once you've got that, you'll see you're left with, you've got your thin end and your fatter end, if you like. Now what we need is a baiting needle with a little loop on, and I'm going to go through the finer end of the pellet cone, if you like. Yeah, right through the middle, push that down. Next thing I'm going to do is get my corn, which is here. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're using this in conjunction with corn. You can pretty much use this with any hook bait, it don't really matter. But for me, you'll see when I break these pellets out how well a yellow piece of corn stands out. Get your hook length loop, put that into the little loop at the top, the catch at the top, pull that down, that'll just slide down, and then this is why you thread through the fine end. You could get like a little, the top of the baiting needle if you want, but I like to use my little bobby finger, push that through, pull that off, and that's what you're left with. Look at the state of that. Now obviously if you squeeze it hard enough, that will 100% stay on as you're casting. Now the thing with casting, you don't want to sort of like pull your left hand through hard. It's more of a guide, so that's why you'd want to use a heavier ledger bum. 3/4 of an ounce minimum, up to like an ounce, something like that. I tend to go for 3/4 of an ounce a lot of the times. And that's what you're left with. So you imagine that on the bottom, once it's settled, that, you know, will start to take effect. The water will get into that, start breaking it down, and within a few seconds, that's what you're left with. You're just left with, even though that was one of my bigger pellet cone molds, you see there's hardly any bait there. Imagine a carp coming along, it nailed a lot of that, but it's that bit there. Look how well that yellow bit of corn just stands out better than anything. And that's it. Then my 3 winter baits, if you like. I just want to tell you what here they are. I told you the quick changey swivelly things. Them things, yeah. Small quick change swivels. That's what you need inside your little twisted boom. I've done loads of videos on that, folks, haven't I? So free running lead down to a little float stop. 4 inches of twisted line onto one of them, and then you can just swap and change between hook baits. There's no right and wrong with it. It's one of them, folks. I'd definitely say bread probably reigns supreme, but for me personally, my fishing, I just can't get over that pellet cone. I absolutely adore it. So get out, give it a try. I'm going to give it a go in a bit, folks. I've actually had a rod in while I've been fishing, but I've not heard any clicks. But it's just one of them things today. It's absolutely freezing cold. If we get a bite, we get a bite. But if not, we're still out there, aren't we? As always, folks, if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please, please, please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification button, and that'll tell you when we're putting out these fantastic videos. Wish me luck, folks. We're going to try and catch a fish.